and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynne Testoni. I'm a journalist and a content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we're bringing you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business. This podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software made just for Australian freelancers and sole traders. It's everything you need to make freelancing easier. Find out more at rounded.com.au.
Also, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, Rounded is giving you 20% off an annual subscription plan. Upgrade to gold membership for all the details.
Hi, Rach. Great to be back on the pod again.
Yeah.
And this week's guest is another freelancer. She's a friend and she's created a great freelance career doing both subbing and writing. So she's someone I've worked with and I have a huge respect for her, particularly we've worked as subs together. Yeah.
Yes. I am so thrilled to have Leigh Livingstone on this week. She's actually a regular in the Rachel's List Gold group as well. And we know that she has her own successful podcast. Always nice to have another fellow podcaster on the podcast. There's a lot of podcasting.
Sounds good. So how about you read out Leigh's bio?
Okay, will do. Leigh Livingstone is a freelance journalist, chief sub-editor, presenter, and the producer/co-host of Popcorn Podcast, an outlet covering new release movies and news that welcomes A-list guests, including Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, Jamie Lee Curtis, and more to chat about their movies. In her career as a chief sub-editor, Leigh has worked for magazine brands such as Foxtel, Stella, Taste, Inside Out, and Qantas, as well as freelance writing for many others, specialising in entertainment, film, and TV, as well as acting as a presenter for hire at film Q&A screenings and for Hoyts Australia. Oh my God, woman.
I'm busy.
You're busy. And you make me really nostalgic for my film writing days, for my movie reviewing days. Yeah.
Actually, yes. I'm proud to say, Rachel, that I was an early adopter of Rachel's List right in the very, very beginning. I think you were a guest lecturer in my journalism course at some point. Yeah, very, very early on.
Wow.
Oh, that's good.
John Burfett was my teacher. I think he got you in.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
That's such a good, we love the sort of 6 degrees of separation. It's probably only a couple really here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's so great to have you join us, Leigh. It's really lovely.
I'm a big time fan of the Content Bite. I listen all the time. So this is great.
Oh, it's good. It's great. Well, also, I'm really excited to chat to you about subbing because I think it's something we haven't really delved into that much on the podcast. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right. I think it was a really interesting topic, and Leigh actually mentioned it to me at breakfast the other day, and I thought, what a great thing, because I know you've been a sub-editor for a few years now.
Yes.
So tell us how and where you started, because journalism wasn't your original career, was it?
No, it wasn't. I came to journalism later in life. I did the whole traveling overseas thing and just sort of working in my after school job for a really long time. And then, I came back to Australia and thought, all right, it's time to get serious about my career. What do I want to do with my life? And writing is something I've always loved. So it seems strange that I'm primarily a sub-editor by trade. But in my journalism degree, a couple of my teachers happened to mention that I had a natural affinity for sub-editing. And I thought, what is this sub-editing? I hadn't really heard of it before. But when I looked into it and gave it a go, someone recommended me for a job at Pacific Magazines. They were looking for a junior sub-editor. And I found I just really loved it.
Yeah.
So I sort of fell into it.
Yeah, amazing. I'm really encouraged by the fact that you can create a successful career as a freelance sub, especially now, because, we've all gone through those awful days where subbing departments were basically being slashed or moved off site and that sort of thing. So how did that affect you? And do you find there's still work around, or it's work for specific people, like it's harder to get subbing work?
It's definitely yeah, the budgets have been slashed for sub editors, definitely. And I think you can see that in some of the content that gets put out these days.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's definitely less full-time roles than there used to be. I find that I work with my regular clients quite regularly, and I haven't struggled to find work. But then again, I supplement my sub editing with writing and podcasting. So I've got a nice mix in there. But the full-time work would be there if I wanted it to be, which I find quite heartening, I guess. So they're relying on freelancers a lot more than they are in-house.
Are you seeing lots of publishers that still really value subs?
I do, but like I said, there's less positions for them. So whereas a magazine might have had 2 or maybe even 3 subs back in the day, they'll generally only have 1 now. And so when that person goes on holidays, they absolutely have to get someone else in. There's no two ways about it. So that's good, I guess, that the work is there. But with things moving into the digital space, I don't think there's subs on digital sites.
Oh, really?
They absolutely should be.
Yeah, there should be. I think it falls to the poor, overworked editors or homepage editors who don't have training as a sub editor and don't really know the ins and outs of it to do that. And it's so fast paced that it just falls by the wayside, I think, which is a shame because it's an important job.
And it's so different, isn't it? Subbing on a digital outlet as opposed to print where you're copy fitting, because you're not really copy fitting, are you?
No, it's all fact checking and structural, I guess.
Totally different.
I still do a little bit of sub editing as part of my mix of work, which I like. And one of the things I like about it is a good way to maintain contacts within the industry. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely been a way to keep in touch with what's going on in-house with new contacts, which, I don't reach out to new contacts very often, but I do find there's a bit of bias to push through that you can only be one or the other, a sub editor or a writer. Like the people who know me know I can do both, but you actually really need to know how to be a good writer to be a good sub editor, and vice versa. I think, because
I agree.
the best writers can and should sub edit their own work before submitting it to an editor.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think sub editing is really good for your writing. I mean, we talked about that with Leigh Livingstone last week, and she was started off as a sub editor as well. And we talked about how that discipline really makes your writing better. Do you find that? Are you a better writer for being a sub?
I think so, definitely. It definitely puts me ahead of the pack when I'm submitting a story that's, polished to within an inch of its life.
Yeah.
Makes the editor's job a lot easier and makes them want to have me back, which is great.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I started out as a sub and then moved into feature writing. But all those principles have stayed with me, and I think about the subs when I'm filing. Remember, Lynn, you've always said I included the 4 subs section in all my copies.
I do the same thing.
Yeah. I've never stopped doing that. And I do the headline. I do a couple of headlines sometimes. I do the cell and everything. And you're right, editors absolutely love it.
Yes.
And they do call you back because it does make their job easier. But what do you love most about subbing?
Well, it can be a bit of a thankless job sometimes. I'm sure other sub-editors can agree, because you're the one that's always pointing out mistakes to other people, whether it's in the design team or whether the writing or, nobody likes to have the mistakes pointed out. But what I really, really love about it is how methodical it is and how disciplined it is, like you said, Lynn. There's still a variety depending on what you're working on and what the article is about, or how an outlet might work, how their processes are. But I think anyone that grew up loving magazines and loved reading magazines knows how deeply satisfying it is to see a perfectly laid out page with no mistakes, and it looks neat and it looks pretty. Like, there's just something really lovely about seeing that finished product.
It's so rewarding. That's what I love about subbing. The copy fitting, all of it. It is very rewarding.
Well, I guess it's a good thing. Maybe talk a little bit about what you do as a sub editor, because some of our listeners may not know exactly what a sub editor, particularly on magazines, which and newspapers, they vary a bit. But what do you do? What's your actual day look like?
Yeah, and I think it's different as well when you're doing copywriting, because there's differences between what a proofreader is and an editor might be. But in magazines and publishing specifically, a sub editor, will proof a layout for typos and grammar, as well as fact checking and reworking the structure. And then also sometimes working with the designer to make sure it looks aesthetically pleasing. So your hands are on every aspect of the page, really. And the buck stops with you. It's up to you to make sure it looks good.
Yeah. Well, I must admit that I still have terror of working at the Woman's Weekly as a sub-editor years ago. And if there was a mistake, Nene King, who was like a scary editor, amazing, but she used to come in like saying, "Who subbed this?" And we'd all like, people almost wanted to hide under their desks. Yeah. So it was always the subs issue, and the buck stopped with them, never the writer, which was a bit scary.
Which I think is important for the role. That is the point of the role. But at the same time, we're all human.
Yeah.
We'll make mistakes. And so you do still need to have those processes in place to be able to catch things and have a couple of eyes on the spread to make sure you're not missing anything. Even the best sub-editors miss things, as you know, we've seen some clangers get published in newspapers. We share them in Rachel's list. I mean, in the content.
Oh, yeah. They're some of my favorite posts, actually. Well, look, speaking of errors and fact checking and all that, is the pressure on a lot more for the subs that are left behind, you know, than it used to be because there's few of them? Like, is there so much more pressure to catch everything?
There is, definitely. And I think now that we're coming out of the pandemic and magazines are sort of bouncing back with their content and their budgets, the teams aren't necessarily stretching back. You know, they were shrunk during the pandemic, and then, you know, the content's coming back, but the teams aren't coming back. So the workload is a lot higher, I think, on the in-house subs than there used to be.
Yeah. Are you working from home though for your clients?
I do, yes. I'm lucky. I'm not really sure if freelancers have gone back yet. I don't know a lot of freelancers that go into the office very much.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Subs, though, they used to make you go in, didn't they?
Yes.
So it's great to see that it is something that you can do from home.
Yeah.
If you're set up with InDesign and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Which I am. I had most of that set up before the pandemic, which made it really easy for me to sort of hit the ground running when everybody had to work from home.
Yeah.
I wanted to circle back and talk about like pay rates, because freelance subs are actually paid relatively well. I mean, it's media, so it's not like, you know, $1 million. But I actually remember that you could earn more as a freelancer than if you were an in-house chief sub. Is that true?
I'm not sure that's the case anymore. I mean, yeah, it is definitely a bit better being a freelancer. But then you've got to manage your own super and your own tax and all that kind of thing. But the thing is, whether I'm stepping into a chief subbing role or working under someone else, the rate is standardized across many major publishing houses, which is a bit disappointing. There's no differentiation between, you know, freelancing as a junior or a mid-level or a senior position, or like your levels of responsibility, which can change depending on the outlet. So that's a bit disappointing. Like the rates kind of just, it is what it is, and that's what you get. I have negotiated a slightly higher rate in recent times, but it's not much more, and it took me quite a few years to do.
Yeah. I know when we get subbing roles at Rachel's List, the rate is somewhere between, you know, 40 and 55 per hour. But we have had some corporate subbing jobs come in where the rate was a lot higher. So it'd be interesting. Have you tried to go for anything like that, or do you stay sort of close to media and magazines?
I do stay close to media and magazines, and it's something every time I talk to Lynne and I see what an impressive career she's carved out since going freelancing. And I always say, I've got to do more corporate stuff. I've really got to, but I do love magazines. I love that world, and I'm hanging on hope that it's going to bounce back. There'll be another golden era, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, because I have to say, if you're working for corporates, you're earning sort of $80 to $100 an hour as it's a different sort of role, because it's more of a proofreader and less of the sub-editing, but I do a little bit of a fact-checking and tidying up, because mostly it's digital.
That's the funny thing too, isn't it, with corporate, that the job is actually split into a number of different jobs and it pays better, whereas in magazines, you have to do everything. And it's not paid as well. It's a bit disappointing.
Where does your subbing work come from? Is it word of mouth, or do you spend a lot of time pitching and, you know, letting people know that you're out there?
Well, most of my work has previously come from in-house gigs that I've done and recommendations from other subs who couldn't necessarily pick up the work. Most of my sub-editing at the moment comes from a few core clients like Stella, Foxtel and Taste magazine. And I've worked, longer in-house contracts for all of those magazines. So that's how I sort of got in the door. And then kind of with Taste and Stella being part of News Corp, it kind of like I bounced between. There's a pool of people.
Yeah.
They all ask each other, do you know any sub editors available? And my name got thrown around. So yeah, I can definitely recommend that in-house gigs are an invaluable way to get to know teams and get contacts.
So do you spend much time emailing people and reminding them about your availability, or do you not need to do that anymore?
Not these days. No,
Yeah.
I at the moment, especially with the holidays and things, there was, a lot of people wanted coverage over the holidays. Now, as it starts to slow down, I will kind of remind people that I'm here and do you have any days available? But it's usually the same clients that I work with pretty regularly, so that I don't reach out to new people very often.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah. And also from memory, the News Limited has always had the magical list.
Yeah.
A list of pre-approved sort of like contractors. Yeah. And it took ages to get on that list, but once you're on, you're okay, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what it comes down to, that golden list, the golden ticket. And the way I got on was doing in-house gigs.
Yeah. Wow. So tell us a little bit about your podcast, because it's been going for a few years.
Yeah.
Do you think that podcasts are now being considered a valid form of media by publicists? Because it's been a long slog for you, hasn't it?
It has. We're coming up for a 4th anniversary now, which is quite exciting. When we began Popcorn Podcast in 2019, podcasting was really taking off in Australia. Like, it was really hitting that ascension. And then the pandemic hit, but we kept going, which was tough to do with cinemas shut down. But that period actually saw our steepest audience growth.
Wow.
In terms of whether it's a valid form of media, I think Australia is quite behind the US in terms of seeing podcasting as a legitimate form of content and a marketing funnel. But it's catching up slowly and surely.
Yeah.
I think now the battle is setting yourself apart from the average Joe as a legitimate media outlet, because they tend to want celebrities with huge followings already, or to have the backing of a major publisher. So it can be tough to pitch and slog, and we work hard to get those interviews and get the content out, but we're doing it.
Yeah. Amazing. And this is probably a very good time to say thank you for the intro that you gave us to our wonderful podcast editor, Josh. Hello, Josh, if you're listening. He edits your podcast, or he used to edit your podcast, didn't he?
He doesn't edit ours anymore. You've stolen him away from us.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. My co-host, Tim, is our audio editor currently, and I used to do the bulk of it in the beginning, actually. So, one of the reasons I started podcasting was also to help my freelance career, because it was taking off as a skill that you needed to have. And as a freelancer, I'm sure you guys can attest to this, that you need to have fingers in all these different pies to be able to stay afloat. And I saw podcasting as a way to build up my brand and add another skill to my toolbox, basically. Yeah. And so, of course, I did the editing in the beginning and tried to do as much of it as possible. But as you grow and get more successful and time becomes a bit of a pinch, you need other people to do it. So Josh is now actually our video editor, and he creates all the wonderful edits of our celebrity and red carpet interviews.
Oh, cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. So tell us what your average day looks like, or maybe a week is a better idea, because what are you working on at the moment?
It changes from week to week, from day to day. I've got a nice mix of sub-editing and writing and podcasting going on. And it's quite funny, because when I made the leap into freelancing, it was because I wanted to spend more time writing, because being chief sub-editor, as I was on Foxtel magazine, which Lynne, you actually hired me into that job.
I did. Yeah.
So being chief sub-editor, I didn't have the time to be able to put into writing, because being a chief sub is so all-encompassing. So I made the leap and I wanted to write more, but it's funny that I just keep falling back on sub-editing, because I love it so much and because the work's there but I'm trying to balance that mix out and do a nice mix of sub-editing, writing and podcasting, and try and keep it even. At the moment, I'm working for Stella and helping them out. I'm just about to take a longer sort of 6-week stint on Foxtel, which will be good. And it's always good to have that regular income.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we talked a little bit about how you use InDesign, but tell us some of your other, tech tips or tools of the trade, things that you would be lost without.
Well, definitely Otter AI. I think you mentioned that a lot on the Content Bite. That's a godsend for me in both podcasting and writing, because it halves the transcription time. And I can pull social content and show notes for the podcast. It's just really, really handy. I also love my Rounded, which I also picked up from the Content Bite.
You are such a walking ad for us, aren't you?
I know. I could not survive without Rounded. It's an absolute godsend. Yeah, and in terms of sub-editing, I guess InDesign is the biggest one. You need to have, a lot of companies work off Google Drive now, so you need to be quite savvy with Google. I think that's it, really.
It's nice and simple, really.
Yeah.
Like InDesign is a relatively complex program. I mean,
it is.
I use it too occasionally for some of my editing role, and I don't know that you could pick it up just self-taught. I think it's sort of something you might need to learn. I mean, I learned it, I was trained in it when I was in-house on a magazine. Do you think so?
Yeah, well, I was trained in it when I was doing my journalism degree. So I got the basics there, and then obviously picked up a lot of things along the way while I was working. Once you know one of the Adobe programs, though, it's quite easy to jump through all the others because they use the similar sort of things. Yeah.
Gosh, you're taking me back to my subbing days when I had to know Quark.
Quark? What on earth is Quark?
Quark was before InDesign.
Was it?
Yeah. It was
great.
It
was good, but InDesign just took it to a whole new level, and the integration between InDesign and Photoshop was what really, and obviously PDFs and things. Yeah, that's quite good.
There's also a program called Content Station, which a lot of publishing houses are using now, and that integrates InDesign into it, so you can see the whole magazine at a glance, and everybody can work on a page, and you don't have to worry about somebody else overriding a file that you're working on at the same time. And it's made life a lot easier for magazines.
Particularly when so many people are working remotely too, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I think we interviewed Claire Bradley, and she said her team was very big on that system. Content Station.
Yeah. I think it's quite good. I know I used it at Foxtel for the first time 8 years ago, and that was quite good when you're working with clients too, because you can give them certain access, and they can view it in a cloud-based system, and that's quite handy, so they can put post-it notes and stuff. That's quite good for clients too.
It's really great at getting feedback and working in that flow of a magazine process.
I wanted to just jump in and see if you had any advice for people who are interested in subbing and wanted to know how to get into it, or what type of work there is and that sort of thing.
I mean, I think look out for some courses so that you can get the techniques and the basics of it, because it helps to be naturally a bit anal retentive when it comes to grammar and typos and things like that, in the best way possible, of course. But there are some technical things that you sort of need to be aware of, and how magazines work, and then obviously working on the job and trying to get in that way. That always seems to be the best way to go, doesn't it? In-house stuff gives you a stepping stone.
Make those relationships, and then absolutely.
Well, years ago there were a lot more sub-editors than there were in-house writers, so it was the best way to become a magazine journalist, which is how obviously all three of us started.
Amazing.
So where can people find out more about you and find you, Leigh? Tell us, share all your links.
Well, I have my own website that, of course, hasn't been updated in a million years. That's the old freelance trope, isn't it? I have a website, but I haven't updated it. So that's leighlivingstone.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, and, of course, the podcast at popcornpodcast.com.
Yes, which reminds me that we still haven't got a website for the Content Bite, which is probably my department. It's on the to-do list.
The Facebook group is all the advertising you need, though, isn't it, really?
I know.
So many wonderful people.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Leigh, it has been so great chatting to you. Thank you so much for giving us, your career journey and your perspective on subbing, which is still so important, I think.
Yeah, thank you so much for being our guest. It's lovely to see you in this way as well as at breakfast. So it's all good.
I want to be invited to the next breakfast. I'm
Totally.
missing out.
We absolutely will. Absolutely will, Rach.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
All right. So don't forget, you'll find the show notes in your podcast app, and you can head there. We'll put all these links in there.
And thank you again to our sponsors, Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software made just for Australian freelancers and sole traders. You can find them at rounded.com.au.
And we'll see you again next week.
Yes, we'll be back next week with another guest. Thanks, everybody. See you then. Bye.
Bye.